Hello everyone. Have you ever heard of the branching timeline theory? In some movies, novels, or games, we often encounter situations where characters must choose between different paths. Each choice leads to a different outcome, and sometimes, even the smallest change in the past can result in completely different events later on. In this way, every decision or change creates a new timeline, and reality keeps branching off. These branches continue to split, forming multiple timelines in different realities. Speaking of the branching timeline theory, many of you may already be familiar with this image and the content from the Book of Bill. According to the Book of Bill, what we witness in Gravity Falls is just one of countless timelines in existence. It's also the only timeline where Mabel and Dipper get a happy ending. Unfortunately, in the other timelines, both of them lost very early on, even before they knew the name Bill Cipher. So, what exactly happens to Mabel and Dipper in those other timelines? Join me today as we explore these alternate outcomes. I won't keep you waiting any longer, let's dive right in. To help you follow along more easily, I'll organize the alternate timelines based on the episodes of Gravity Falls and analyze them according to this image. 1. Mabel becomes the Gnome Queen. We begin with the first episode of Gravity Falls, Tourist Trapped. In this episode, Mabel is captured by gnomes who force her to become their queen. The story starts when Mabel meets a boy named Norman in the cemetery and decides to befriend him. She brings Norman home to introduce him to Stan and Dipper, but Dipper suspects something isn't right. As it turns out, as many of you know, Norman is actually a group of gnomes in disguise. Dipper then has to chase them down to rescue Mabel. Together, they struggle to escape the giant gnome monster. In the end, Mabel pretends to accept their marriage proposal to trick and defeat them. But what if there hadn't been a leaf blower for Mabel to use against the gnomes? Perhaps she would have accepted their proposal, been taken to the gnomes' lair, and become their queen. Mabel would wear a cloak made of leaves and wield a mushroom scepter, marking one of the first bad endings, where Mabel becomes the Gnome Queen. 2. Mabel drowns. If Mabel and Dipper manage to escape the gnomes, the timeline continues to the second episode of Gravity Falls, The Legend of the Gobblewonker. In this episode, Mabel, Dipper, Seuss, and Stan go fishing. However, instead of fishing, they decide to leave Stan behind and hunt for the Gobblewonker monster with Seuss. After being chased for a while, they hide in a cave with the Gobblewonker stuck at the entrance. But what if Seuss's boat didn't hold up long enough for them to reach the cave? If the monster had attacked in the final moments, they might have been swallowed by the lake's waters forever. In the bad ending image, we can see a faint, soaked Mabel, but was she the only survivor, or did she also drown like the other versions of these bad endings? 3. Dipper fails against the wax statue uprising. If the siblings manage to survive both Death Flog and the Gobblewonker, they then face the uprising of the wax statues in episode 3, Headhunters. In this episode, Seuss discovers a forgotten room in the Mystery Shack filled with wax statues. Grunkle Stan seizes the opportunity to make money by opening a wax museum. Mabel, bursting with artistic inspiration, creates a wax figure of her Uncle Stan. However, the night after the exhibit, Stan's wax statue is beheaded. This leads Dipper and Mabel to take on the role of detectives, trying to uncover who's behind the crime. Despite following various clues, they come up empty-handed. At the wax Stan's funeral, Dipper and Mabel finally discover that the real culprits are the wax statues themselves. They had intended to target the real Stan, but ended up attacking the wax figure by mistake. When the wax statues realize that Dipper and Mabel know their secret, they attempt to eliminate the siblings. The two must defend themselves, exploiting the wax statue's weakness of melting. In the end, sunrise saves Dipper at the last second. But what if the sun hadn't risen in time? It's certain that Dipper, a boy without weapons, would have been no match for the wax statue of Sherlock Holmes. And this wasn't the only deadly challenge Dipper and Mabel would have faced. Even after Dipper narrowly defeats the wax Sherlock Holmes and returns inside, Mabel is still dealing with the remnants of the wax statues. Wax Shakespeare's head warns her about the return of the statues, and the fact that Wax Larry King is still alive at the end of the episode confirms this. 4. Dipper dies at the hands of Gideon. This bad ending nearly plays out in episode 4, The Hand That Rocks the Mabel. Gideon, one of Gravity Falls' main villains, makes his debut in this episode where he meets Mabel. He invites her out in an attempt to get closer to her. But the more time Mabel spends with Gideon, the stranger things become, and when Gideon confesses his love, Mabel feels overwhelmed. To help his sister reject Gideon, Dipper steps in, which leads to Gideon seeking revenge. The bad ending here is if Mabel hadn't arrived in time to stop Gideon, Dipper would have been killed by Gideon's supernatural powers. Another possible bad ending occurs if Mabel hadn't used Gideon's amulet to save both Dipper and Gideon when they were falling from the cliff. In that scenario, Dipper would have surely perished. 5. Mabel's soul is lost forever in the haunted convenience store. In the episode The Inconveniencing, Mabel faces 2 potential bad endings. In this episode, Mabel and Dipper join Wendy and her friends in visiting an abandoned convenience store, which turns out to be haunted by the spirits of its former elderly owners. The first bad ending could occur when Mabel discovers that Smile Dip, a forbidden snack, causes extreme hallucinations when consumed in large quantities. Mabel suffers intense hallucinations, and there's a chance she may never escape them. The second bad ending happens when Mabel becomes possessed by the spirits of the elderly couple. If Dipper hadn't thought to perform a cute dance to appease the spirits, or if he had been too embarrassed to do it in front of Wendy and her friends, Mabel would have permanently become a vessel for the spirits. 6. Dipper is replaced by his clone. In the episode Double Dipper, Dipper, wanting to spend time with Wendy without neglecting his duties for Stan, uses a strange photocopier in the Mystery Shack to create a clone of himself. His first clone is Tyrone, who is identical to Dipper except for the number 2 on his hat instead of the original's pine tree symbol. However, things spiral out of control when Dipper and Tyrone decide to create even more clones to increase their chances with Wendy. But when the moment of truth arrives, the clones rebel and turn against each other. The bad ending here is if Dipper had failed to make peace with Tyrone, leaving Tyrone alive and successful in replacing Dipper forever. 7. Dipper pays the price for time travel. Episode 9, The Time Traveler's Pig, is the clearest depiction of how even small changes to the past can affect the present. In this episode, Dipper, in search of a perfect reality, decides to use Blendon's time travel device, and Mabel joins him on this journey. However, no matter how many times Dipper resets time, nothing seems to go his way. When Dipper gets a chance to win Wendy's heart, Mabel loses her chance to win Waddles the pig, leading the siblings to continue their uncontrollable time traveling. In the bad ending image, we can see a version of Dipper resembling a ghost, holding Blendon's time travel device. This could be the price Dipper pays for abusing time travel to fix reality. He may lose his physical body or become trapped in the timelines as a concept rather than a presence. 8. Dipper, trapped in an 8-bit game. In the episode Fight Fighters, Dipper accidentally releases an 8-bit video game character and uses this opportunity to have him teach Robbie a lesson. However, things soon spiral out of control, and Dipper has to fight Rumble McSkirmish. After losing the fight, Dipper is forced to return him to the video game console. The bad ending here could have been Dipper himself, turning into an 8-bit character due to his abuse of Rumble McSkirmish for bullying Robbie without fighting for himself. He might have been pulled back into the video game along with Rumble McSkirmish. 9. Dipper and Mabel, permanently shrunk. In the episode Little Dipper, Gideon returns to seek revenge and accidentally gets his hands on a size-changing flashlight from Dipper and Mabel. Gideon uses it to shrink both siblings and trap them in a jar. If they hadn't managed to defeat Gideon in time and use the flashlight to return to their normal size, Dipper and Mabel would have been stuck living in their tiny forms forever. Along with them, Stan would have also been shrunk as part of Gideon's revenge plan. 10. Eaten by the summerween trickster. In episode 12 of season 1, Summerween, Dipper and Mabel face off against the summerween trickster, a monster tied to the town's unique Halloween tradition. They have to collect 500 pieces of candy before the night ends, or they'll be devoured by the trickster. Things don't go as planned, and they fail, leading to the trickster hunting them down. The bad ending in this case would have been Dipper, Mabel, and their friends being eaten and digested by the summerween trickster. 11. Mabel becomes a zombie. This bad ending would occur if Dipper and Mabel couldn't figure out a way to defeat the zombies in the episode Scary OK. If they failed, Mabel, Dipper, and Stan would share the same fate as Suze and many other residents of Gravity Falls, turning into zombies after being bitten. 12th. Dipper loses his body to Bill forever. Episode 4 of Season 2, Sock Opera, marks a key battle between Dipper and Bill Cipher. In this episode, Dipper strikes a deal with Bill, and Bill takes over Dipper's body, leaving Dipper as a helpless spirit. The bad ending here would have been if Mabel hadn't helped Dipper defeat Bill. Dipper would have permanently lost his body and remained a wandering spirit forever, while Bill used Dipper's body to carry out his plans. 13. Dipper and Mabel brainwashed into joining the Blind Eye Society. This bad ending would happen if Dipper and Mabel had their memories erased by the Blind Eye Society. They would forget everything about their summer and their purpose, just like the other residents of Gravity Falls who became part of the society. This future could easily have come true if Old Man McGucket hadn't stopped the brainwashing beam in time. 15. Dipper and Mabel permanently turned into wood. In the episode Northwest Mansion Noir, Dipper helps the Northwest family capture a vengeful ghost. However, Dipper soon learns the truth about the family's deceitful nature. Angry at being used, Dipper decides to release the ghost. The ghost then turns all the guests at the Northwest family's party into wood, including Mabel. Dipper is also turned into wood. If Pacifica hadn't taken action to open the mansion's gates, the ghost wouldn't have moved on, and everyone turned into wood would have been trapped in that form forever under the ghost's curse. 16. Defeated by Bill Cipher. If Dipper and Mabel hadn't been able to defeat Bill Cipher, another bad ending would have occurred. For example, they might have been turned to stone and used as part of his throne, just like other residents of the town, or transformed into some monstrous creatures. Those are all the bad endings that could have happened to Dipper and Mabel. Which one scares you the most? Are there any other bad endings you can think of? Leave a comment below so we can discuss them with other fans. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.